Hi, this is Natalie Rice from sportsreview.com. Joining us now is Ian O'Sullivan from bettingcycling.co.uk. We've just finished filming a video which is basically outlining the favourites to win the 2016 Giro d'Italia. Now we're looking at the props betting markets, and a popular betting market is obviously the king of the mountains, and it is Nibali's former teammate Mikel Landa, who is the strong favourite, still with value at this point, actually 2.88 with Coral. You can get that also 2.75 with Bet365. Would you say he's the rider to back?
Well, I've written in my preview that I don't think so, and it's a very strange market, the king of the mountains. It's very, very, very difficult to call the king of the mountains because, number one, you have absolutely no idea whether there are some riders down the field who have completely set their whole season around trying to win the King of the Mountains competition in the Giro. You'll have teams like Bardiani or some of the lower Italian teams who will be going all out for the publicity of trying to win the, wear it even just for a few days, wear the jersey, get the TV publicity, etc. And you'll get guys going in breaks earlier on the race trying to get the jersey. And sometimes if they get the jersey, they get inspired and they actually carry on trying to pick up points for the rest of the race. With regards to Landa, the other important thing to remember with regards to the King of the Mountains competition, the Giro, is that a lot of the bigger points are awarded on mountains that are actually in the middle of the race rather than at the finish. I think I was doing my sums the other night, and there's something like 545 points are awarded on climbs that are in the middle of the stage, and something like, I can't remember exactly, I might be wrong here, but I think it's only something like 91 or 191 points for climbs at the finish. And where that's important is that you will not get the likes of Landa attacking on climbs in the middle of the stage. He won't be leading over the climbs where there's 40 points on offer with 50Ks to go. He'll be sitting in, he'll be waiting, and he'll go for the attack on the final climb to try and put time and distance into his rivals like Nibali. So I think it's actually really poor value. Yes, he might win several stages and he might win several of the mountaintop finishes, but there's not a lot of points available for that. And I think it's actually probably going to go to somebody down the field who's going to go on the attack, on several days.
Mm-hmm. And why is Nibali priced as long as 17 for this category?
Because, well, I think that's probably a fairer price for Landa. It's the logic between the difference in the two prices is a bit crazy to me, because Landa and Nibali are in the exact same situation. They're both going for the GC. As a result, the only thing I can think of is that they think that Nibali is going to be a lot more aggressive and going to be trying to attack earlier on in stages and trying to put Sky under pressure. But that doesn't make sense to me. It's, I think the two of them should be around 10 to 20 to 1. Landa is a silly price. I might be proved very wrong here, and he might go out and, the other thing, of course, is that sometimes the points are spread around quite a bit. And you get guys will lead over one climb, and another guy will lead over another, and they'll go on and attack one day and they'll be too tired the next day, so somebody else will come along. And it may be that there might not be a lot of points required to actually win the competition. And winning some of the mountain stage finishes might be what Landa wins it. But to me, riders like Steven Kruijswijk is a good option. He'll probably be on the attack. He might lose time earlier on the race, and that's the other thing, is sometimes riders lose time, so they're not a GC threat, and they will then be given the freedom to go on the attack.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, another market, obviously, with a leading favourite is the young rider classification. Obviously, with David Formolo leading the way, 2.25 Paripa. The second favourite is Sebastian Henao, 7 Bet365. Is Formolo the guy to back?
Formolo is an interesting one. He was second last year behind Fabio Aru. Fabio Aru was something like 2 to 5 to win it last year. He was by far and away the best young rider in the race. He nearly won the race itself. But Formolo was something like an hour and 40 minutes behind him. It wasn't even remotely close. And I think basically the bookies are pricing this up that because he finished second last year, he's probably going to win it this year. Formolo has done nothing for me this year to warrant backing him at the price he is. I speak sometimes to somebody on the Cannondale team, and he agreed with me. I said, what do you think of Formolo's chances at the price he is? And he said he's not really done a lot this year. It's hard to know. Some riders will be building up and they'll be doing training blocks, which affects their results in races because they've been training specifically for different types of races and preparing for the Giro, for example. But it's again, it's a bit like Nibali and Landa. I think the price is too short. Sebastian Hainau, he's short as well. I think he'll be required to support Landa. That's got its pros and cons because where it's a pro is that if he's riding at the front of the race supporting Landa and he stays at the front of the race close to the last couple of kilometers of the climb to look after Landa and then pulls over, job done, and rolls into the finish, there's a good chance he'll actually finish quite high up in each stage. And there's a good chance that he won't actually finish 30 minutes behind or 40 minutes behind or whatever on some of the tough mountain stages. And as a result of that, he might, finish in a good placing. On the flip side is that if he is looking after Landa, he might be exhausted with 20 kilometers to go and come in 35 minutes down in stages. So it's kind of a tricky one. You got to try and predict and try and guess as to what the team orders will be and what his role will be.
Yeah.
But there is a rider below that who I like a little bit, and that's Joe Dombrowski, American rider. He's quite a good climber. I think he's a bit better value. I think he's around the 8-1, 10-1, that sort of way. Again, as I say, I spoke to my friend on the Cannondale team, and he thinks that Dombrowski will have a good race.
Right, fantastic stuff. Now, it sounds obviously that the markets that we've just discussed now, it's sort of better to wait sort of at least until sort of the sixth stage. Are there any value markets that, for our viewers right now, if they're looking, they'd like to place a bet right now? Are there any such markets, or again, do you just let the race commence, check out sort of like the physical of the riders, and then take the bets of the six stages, or is there something we can bet on right now?
I was going to mention actually for the overall winners market, there was a rider that I liked at a massive price, and it's kind of a speculative fun bet. He's 150-1, so you don't have to have a lot on him to have maybe fun for the next 3 weeks, and that's Andre Amador of the Movistar team. He was fourth last year. He was absolutely fantastic last year. I think he only finished outside the top 30 on something like 4 stages. He was remarkably consistent, climbed really well. And, he's a top quality rider, but he's a support rider. He's a support rider for Alejandro Valverde, who's the third favourite for a race. I'm basically taking a bit of a gamble here that Valverde doesn't have a great race and maybe Amador can step up and be the team leader. Or alternatively, a little bit like what I was saying with Hainau, that if Amador can do like he did last year when he was working working hard as a support rider, he can finish high up in stages again. And it's a long shot, but all it takes is something like Nibali or Landa or Valverde to have an accident, and you'll have riders down the pecking order who'll suddenly see themselves with a shot at the podium. As regards to markets that are going to be happening right now, then of course the points competition for the best sprinter will be kicking off from stage 2. You've got Marcel Kittel, who I think he's probably about 10 or 12-1. He's the best sprinter in the world. He's won, I think, 8 races already this year. I think he'll win stage 2. I think he'll win stage 3. I've already got my money down on him to win the sprint in stage 2. But the thing with Kittel is that there's a high likelihood he won't finish. Very often these riders will go and they'll take part in the sprints in the early part of the race. Mm-hmm. The sprints are kind of few and far between later on in the race, and very often if they're suffering the mountains, they'll just retire and they'll save themselves for the Tour de France. I think Kittel will do that. Same goes for some other riders. You might see Arnaud Demer, who won Milan-San Remo this year. He might do similar. But there are a couple of Italians who I really like the look of. Giacomo Nizzolo is... He won it last year. I tipped him last year at 13-2, and he's a tough little rider. He's a good sprinter. He won't be up there with the best of sprinters in the really fast sprints, but he gets over the hilly stages and he will last to the finish. He will last right to the end of this race. As I said, he won it last year. I think he's going there to try and win it again. I think he's favoured for it this year, but I think he's a good price favourite for it. I was saying 6-4 for the likes of Landa, Nibali, and some of the shorter priced markets. This is possibly one that you could get stuck into earlier on. And the other rider is Sacha Modolo, another Italian riding for the Lampre team. I think he's about 4-1, and I think he was third last year. He's a very good sprinter. He could do well in some of the flatter stages, but also some of the uphill ones. And I think he'll last to the finish again this year. And the thing with that bet, I'm kind of looking at it as a bet to nothing, as they say, at 4-1, paying quarter the odds for the first three. I think he'll be unlucky if he's not in the first three. So you've got a bet there to get your money back. If he goes on to win it, you've got the 4-1 on the win side.
All right, fantastic stuff. That was Ian O'Sullivan from cyclingbetting.co.uk. Do head on over to sportsreview.com if you want to read Ian's full article there. Ian, pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Natalie. Always a pleasure.